What's up, everybody? I'm James Duggan here with Brandon Terrell.
Howdy, James.
We are playing the Culling. This game came out of nowhere.
Oh my God, this game is amazing.
Yes.
So if you ever wanted to play the Hunger Games, and I mean, if you look at Minecraft communities and all that, they have mods like this. This is what you've been waiting for. The Culling is basically like the Hunger Games. It's was it by Xaviant Games?
Xaviant Games, yeah. And there have been games that have done this in a afterthought capacity, one of them being Rust. There's kind of a mod for that.
A battle royale
but
kind of thing.
This is created from the ground up with this in mind, and I have to say, I've never felt more like Jennifer Lawrence in my life.
Right? I know. I'm walking around like Katniss Everdeen all the time.
I have a confession. I'm not actually playing this right now. We recorded this beforehand and happened to win. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. We're just giving it away right out of the bat.
I mean, we gotta have people stick around for some reason.
So yeah, one thing about this game I will say, there's a lot of things we want to talk about, but the one thing I will say is this game is super nerve-wracking. Like, it is anxious the entire time. So you'll understand if we're not able to play and talk about it intelligently. It'd mostly just be like, oh, what was that?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So when I started my first match, I thought it was kind of simplistic. I was like, okay, this is a very mechanically simple.
Yeah.
Here's my first kill. I am extremely proud of this one. An AFK guy. Look at that. Just punch him in the face until he dies. You got to take your boons where you can get them.
He's wearing a mask.
Little
free promo for him. Although, if you get punched in the face repeatedly, I'm not sure you're going to want to watch.
And so you find these little things and you get what's called funk. The whole game kind of has a slight slight comical overtone to it. It's self-aware in the
kind of reminds me like Monday Night Combat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
like
that's perfect.
In the future, this is basically a game show, and you have currency called funk, F-U-N-C. And you use that to craft items, or you collect enough of it for exploring or killing other enemies. And you use that to buy stuff in the game, unlock chests that have a lock on them.
Right.
And as you can see, every time you craft something, it costs you a little bit of funk as well.
A little bit of funk, and this costs a lot of funk. This is one of the funk chests.
A 50 funk box.
Which I don't think I ever ended up using that orange juice, so totally not worth it. But that's basically a temporary buff. There are things that will increase your stamina regeneration, increase your armor, just pretty standard buffs. And there's also guns, they're projectile weapons.
Yeah.
But the combat in this game is surprisingly well thought out. You have attack, you can hold to charge it up, you can right-click to block, which will stun the attacker, or if somebody's just spamming block, you can hit Q, and that will actually push them, and it's like a counter block, and it will then stun the blockee.
So it's kind of a rock. Oh, what was that?
Oh, it's a
just cobwebs or something?
No. There's a tracker gun in there. It looks really, really cool, but when you actually pick it up, it doesn't do any damage. It sets off their emergency beacon, which in effect just makes a light shine out of them, so they're easier to find.
Gotcha.
But at that point, you've already found them, so I tend not to take it. You have a limited amount of inventory slots until or if you find a backpack.
Right. So you start with 3 inventory slots. You find a backpack, you get 5. But going back to it, let's talk a little bit about that combat again. It is, like you were saying, it's really, really well thought out in that it's sort of a rock, paper, scissors, right? When you have a melee weapon, you can attack. If you're blocking and you attack someone that's blocking, you get stunned, leaving you open to a counterattack. But then again, if someone is blocking, you have a push mechanic, which means you can sort of break their block with a push, leaving them open. So it really is sort of like this mind game of, rock, paper, scissors.
Yep. And it is possible to react, and if your opponent's charging up a really long melee attack, you can block, but it could be a feint, and they could decide to push you instead, stunning you. So it does feel a little bit spammy at start, and I would be lying if it isn't a little bit spammy in its essence, but there is some strategy,
it,
right?
Yeah.
And the other great point of note is that if somebody has a projectile weapon, be it a gun or a blow dart thing or a bow, if you hit them with a melee weapon, you disarm them, dropping the thing, which is superb. And you can tell the developers of this game, Xaviant, have played a lot of games similar to this, probably DayZ and Rust and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they really know their stuff. And I have to say that I was extremely impressed, with nothing else than just the tutorial for the closed alpha.
So I played the tutorial. This, by the way, is closed alpha. It just opened up. I shouldn't say opened up. It just went into closed alpha today, with sort of a limited run. It's coming to Steam Early Access on March 8th. It's got this really awesome theme running through it, where it is sort of self-referential. As you can see right there, the leaderboard is broadcast in the sky. You have cameras all over the trees. It is basically the Hunger Games kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I love that. I was like, I wonder if I can see how many people are alive. I was trying to hit tab, and then I just kind of naturally stumbled onto the fact that the leaderboard is projected, and you can see who's alive, who's dead, how many kills someone has gotten. So if you see somebody with 5 kills, and then you see their name in-game, you probably don't want to confront them right away.
Yeah.
And I am playing in a free-for-all mode, but there is team deathmatch. There is a tutorial mode. Well, not team deathmatch, but like a teamed version of this.
It's teams of 2. I think it's 8 teams of 2.
Oh, that's brilliant. I thought I was thinking it was 2 teams of 8, which would not be anywhere near as good.
This game really, and like again, I know we keep going back to the well that is the Hunger Games. This game really sort of lives on that paranoid feeling of like being stalked, right, or stalking people.
So here we can see an event popping up, grab my package. This is an airdrop in a random location. And basically what this does is it kind of organically coerces player interaction. I got an SMG here, which is the biggest boon, and you will see this put to good use in a very entertaining way in a couple minutes.
A little bit later, yeah. And that's one thing I will say is like rocks, knives, sticks, bows and arrows, all that is pretty readily available. If you can find it, you can craft it. Super power weapons like this, like the SMGs and the rifles and the chainsaw and explosives.
Oh yeah, the chainsaw.
Those things are a little bit harder to come by, and so you have players running around with a spear like you were doing a little bit later. You're just running around with a spear, feigning like that was the best thing you had.
Right.
And then you whipped out an SMG and gunned a guy down.
Yeah.
And things like that are things to be aware of. Like you can see someone running around with a bow, and then they'll pull out a sniper rifle.
And the other thing to note about a game like this is it's when you play it once or twice, at least if you're like me, you're like, okay, well, this is really fun, and I could definitely see myself playing with friends, but what's the hook to keep me playing besides just getting better at it, which in these days is just totally a thing. This, you actually don't need Funk to open, which is cool.
Yeah, there are item crates just scattered around, so exploration is a big part of the game.
But there's aesthetic rewards for just completing a game, even if you don't win. I'd like to see a little bit of progress in the progression system, because winning a match here, I got a very similar reward to losing or being the first killed. However, it's really cool because it gives you an incentive to keep playing to unlock. Like, I think I unlocked a cowboy hat from this.
Yeah.
So there is the Culling Arena. That's the central area at a certain point in the game. I believe when there's maybe 10 or 5 minutes left, a gas cloud will start encroaching and reducing the playable area to, again, force those encounters. And this is something that
sort of
we've seen in Rust.
Center,
in Hungercraft, I believe that's what it's called.
Yeah, the mod that I was talking about earlier. Yeah. There's the push mechanic you can see.
Yep.
It's really, really smart development in that it gives you time. It kind of hits all those loops that players really like, that I like, that you like. Exploration, kind of like gaining power, crafting your weapons and all that, and then time sort of becomes your enemy because it's going to start forcing you in. So you're going to start looking around for players to fight before that happens in order to sort of thin the ranks. But yeah, so the entire island that you're on right now is riddled with all these cool little interactive things. Like this big canister up here, you see, you can sort of pop those open to release poison gas that blocks out the area for people.
So let's say you found a chest, or there's a drop zone right there that costs a collective total of 150 funk between the two of those. If you wanted to deny your opponent the opportunity to use those, this was a huge find.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to deny your opponent the opportunity to use those, you could release the gas cloud, and then they wouldn't be able to access that without dying. So
how did you find that there? It was just lying around?
I don't know. I guess some guy dropped it.
Maybe someone dropped it?
This ended up being one of the best weapons in this match. So
there is a guy up there on the hill.
Guy there. Yep.
When he was playing this, I was like, is that a guy? Oh, it must have been a tree. I will say though,
is 2020.
Something I just thought about is if they call in their drop package, and then you pop the gas, they can't get it.
That's true. I didn't even think about that.
So they would have.
I thought about crashing like a. It does take a minute for the care package, and like you saw before, it's totally visible to all players.
Yeah, it's sort of a big beacon. People can wander over to it.
So the action starts happening in about, I'm going to say, less than 60 seconds here. It was kind of a quiet match at the start. I just had that AFK guy, and then all of a sudden, it just hit the fan. I
feel like that's really the tone of this game. Really, is the first 10 minutes are this quiet, sort of nervous experience, and then after that, it's a super tense when you're all getting forced into each other.
So here I'm crafting arrows, which the animation's a little bit broken. The other crafting animations are hilarious. You're just trying to smash two racks into each other, but it's something that's super important. And one thing I love about this, it's like ease of use crafting. I don't have to worry about collecting all these various materials.
You don't have to open a menu and drag stuff in.
It's just like, oh, I found sticks. I'm making arrows.
If you're holding a rock and you see a rock, you can craft a knife.
So
right there on the fly.
Somebody has scattered traps around this area, and here's my first kill. Well, second kill.
Wrecked.
Hit that guy.
Oof.
And they were having a fight, so that's something. Crashing a fight.
Yeah, you see him?
Yep. And then I actually get trapped here. And for about 20 seconds solid, I thought this was a status effect that was going to wear off on its own. Not the case. You actually have to free yourself from it by holding F.
It's interesting because there are a lot of different statuses in the game right now. There's bleeding and poison. Poison affects your vision like this and makes you throw up.
Which I end up throwing up right here, I believe. Blech.
Yeah, there it is. And that sort of like is effectively a timed stun. Like you're eventually going to have to stop moving and throw up.
So this other opponent right here has a sledgehammer, which is a very high tier weapon, does a lot of damage. I have not made it known that I have an SMG, though he may have seen it right there. And basically my strategy here is to lure him into a false sense of security with a bow, and then this happens. This was incredibly satisfying.
Oh my god, that's so fun.
Little weird quirk here. I want to pick up the backpack to be able to use more inventory slots, so I actually have to drop something to pick it up and then use it. I wish I could just hit it. I'm sure this is a closed alpha.
Yeah. There's still a lot of work left to be done. Some of the assets and the textures aren't in there yet, but for what's here, I mean, I'm not sure if you'd agree with me, but I think this is a super solid start to a really, really fun.
It's incredibly fun. And
we both really enjoy highly competitive games.
Right.
Highly competitive multiplayer games.
And what was amazing about this is it came out of absolutely nowhere for me.
It wasn't on my radar at all until it just popped up. I'm really, really, really excited for sort of what's going to go into this game. Because it's got the best part of what I loved about things like Rust and DayZ is this sort of like quick like power grab where you find a new weapon and you feel super powerful and you just want to go find another player and kill him with it.
Yeah. It's got that moment to moment down to the T.
Absolutely.
The burn that I get from Rust is extremely different, and actually Rust is in a really weird place for me because it's an amazing game, and the idea of building a house with all your friends in this base and then getting into almost an EVE Online style war with another group of players is great. The problem is the server structure isn't really there, and it's hosted by players who then end up resetting their servers every couple of days because otherwise one team is just clearly victorious. This is if you think of World of Warcraft is a big RPG, and you think of Dota as the smaller version of that. This is the Dota 2, like a Rust or a DayZ. It's a short, condensed, but it captures all the best parts besides something like base building. But here we can see there are 3 players left, and I just called in an airdrop.
Right.
And this is where things started to get a little bit tense.
So these are one of those like Hunger Games examples of how you can sort of spend your money to get equipped with better things that you won't find on the island or in nature. At the beginning of the map, you can sort of outline a loadout or what you want to come in your care packages. You can outline sort of what perks you want. There's actually a fairly robust loadout.
Yeah, there's an enormous amount, and I actually didn't even really dive into them too much just because it starts you out with ones that are pretty generally applicable. Like here's 15 health, here's 10% damage across the board.
Right now, I think you're using a loadout that's like melee focused, right?
But you could do something like, I want to do 100% more damage with just axes.
Yeah. Or I want to be an archer, so my arrows have a 20% chance to stun.
Or I want to start with a man tracker or an alarm gun. Those are all things you can do. Now, the thing is, you have no way of knowing if you'll actually get an axe when you get into the game, so it's a little bit riskier to choose a perk like that. But to your point, you were talking about the airdrops. You can select the airdrop package you want.
Right.
And so actually, having a little bit of experience now, I think some are better than others. But
so you see what's happening right here is he called in his care package, and this guy obviously saw it from a ways away. And right now, you guys are both putting on a great show of how to shoot the air with arrows.
It's funny because I definitely felt like I should have gotten some hits there, and then I realized that they were hitting the water.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I have to score a headshot here. I'm not going to get anything.
Yeah.
So there's a little Iron Man. That's a little temporary boost. I already have the armor, so there's no point in me picking up another one. And
he's got a blowgun too.
Yep. At this point, just decided to go all in.
And so here's where that sort of rock, paper, scissors mechanics comes in. I mean, a knife versus a sledgehammer doesn't seem too fair, but
it's really not. I also have body armor.
Yeah.
So he was at an extreme disadvantage here, but yeah.
You pushed him to unstable him. See, he's blocking, which means he was able to counterattack. And then I think you're just like, well.
I think I end this pretty hilariously, if I recall. So now he's just one away, but he's really giving me. He's being a pain in my ass, so I just do that.
you throw it and kill him.
Yeah.
And the thing to keep in mind is all weapons are different. The weapon you're using right now, the sledgehammer, is very slow but very strong, whereas his knife is very fast and causes bleeding. So, if you're quick, you can actually go toe to toe if you know the mechanics pretty well.
And so while we were calling in that airdrop, there was actually an alert message saying that the Phase 1 had started, meaning that the gas cloud is now encroaching on that central area, and all of these parts of the map are now rendered impassable. So basically, at this point in the game, I have 13 HP, and we're kind of getting to the central fight, the final fight to decide who's going to win the game. So I am just trying to get HP to save my life here. You can see the cloud getting closer and closer, and I decided to make a run for this. It ends up being non-functional because I think somebody actually depleted it. So that sucks. But
and you see that poison gas coming in.
Right.
And clearly, I mean, you don't really have to play the game to understand that green gas is bad gas.
Bad for you.
Yeah. So
really bad gas. Just the worst gas possible.
It's terrible. It's so bad. So everyone's sort of being driven into the center of the map here. James is kind of short on options for health. Interestingly enough, you can craft medkits on the fly though. Like you can take 2 sticks and use 2 sticks to create a bandage, and that does a minimal amount of healing. You could see a guy down there on the road. And I think right now you're looking, you're looking for branches to find more arrows.
Because I think that's my best option to survive here is to maybe get on top of that little structure and just kind of play archer and not really get involved in the combat. I think there's 2 people left, so letting them duke it out is my strategy here. And we'll see how it plays out. There's the guy.
He's just
and if he had a projectile weapon, I would have been dead right there, I'm pretty sure. Especially if he had something like a rifle or... Thankfully, I think the most powerful weapon in this game I happened to stumble upon, which was the SMG. I'm definitely not going back in there because that is just riddled with traps.
Yeah.
And you know what?
There's 2. There's only 2. It's
yeah.
You and
so
him.
it's just me and him.
And you know what I noticed playing the other day is I was actually in this exact situation. I had a bow. I was out here in the water, and the guy was on the shoreline. And I noticed that when you're out in the open, you are in a much bigger disadvantage than if you have even some cover. Because, sure, a bush might not stop an arrow, but I'm really impressed with the fact that it's harder. Those obstacles on the shore are harder to aim through, right? They do provide some sort of camouflage.
Yeah. No, I think visually, I was going to say even just a little bit of geometry breaks it up.
Yeah. And when you're dealing with travel time and in-flight time like this arrow has.
Here I was actually just trying to figure out how to cancel my knocked arrow, which I just ended up switching off of it. But
yeah.
So yeah, this is the culminating fight. I think I'm much better geared here. However, I have 13 HP, so there's that. And this guy, he starts with full health, so we'll see how this plays out. I was pretty much surrendered to the idea of not winning this at this point, just because I was like, man, I'm like 1 hit. So
I like the fact right here that he ran under and we lost him. He's gone. Where'd he go? And then it's really nerve-wracking because you're
terrifying.
I have 13 hit points.
Yep.
All this dude has to do is hit 1 arrow.
And you can actually see this stage can take quite a while because we have 5 minutes there in the upper left-hand corner. So this gas cloud kind of creates an arena, and if this were a different game, there would be 10 people in here and you would all be duking it out in a much smaller space than the previous. But this game just happened to be one where the majority of the people got taken out by other players. I cleaned up some of the stragglers, and then there was 1 person left. And
what I do like is when you do lose, you're not forced to sit there and watch these 2 players finish the match.
Which you can do if you want.
You can spectate if you want. But you can also just go straight back to the main menu and still get your reward. Wow.
It's a little risky play on my part. Just
brazen, sir.
I decided I needed the ammunition.
So you look down and then turn around, and there he is.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. He is right there.
This is terrifying.
Open up with the spear.
Oh, you got him.
Yep. And then my strategy here was just do the classic arrow kiting of running, sprinting, turning 180 degrees, trying to get off a quick shot, hopefully hit. And then I decided that I've had enough with that.
And what's really interesting is if he had hit you with your bow out, you would have dropped it.
Yeah,
and
but
that
8
probably would have been the
HP,
game.
there it is. Victory. He falls through the world because he just couldn't handle it anymore.
That's right. I don't want to be here anymore. 5 kills.
Yeah, I did pretty well. And here is the little reward lottery.
Sort of the.
I got a zebra cowboy hat, which is excellent. However, I would have liked something signifying. I don't know. Maybe there's a certain pool that it pulls from, but
it's pretty cool. I can't wait to jump back in and just play another round.
Absolutely. I'm just excited to see where this game goes. If this is the closed alpha debut,
I would love to see a new island, a new map.
Sure.
You know, like a desert.
Absolutely.
Terrain or
and
whatever.
when that stuff does happen, keep it locked right here on IGN.